Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We are here ready to tackle this pretty massive stack of source material and really boil it down to the core insights for you.
Yeah, we've got a lot to get through today.
We do. We're charting the career of an American comedian, actor, host, someone who really embodies the idea of a global artist, Tom Rhodes.
Rhodes is, he's a really fascinating study in how a career can evolve. You're looking at 4 decades, right?
Yeah.
Mid-'80s up to now.
Exactly.
And it's just so varied. Stand-up, obviously, but then scripted TV, network hosting, even proper travel writing. But the thread connecting it all, it's movement, constant movement.
Absolutely. So the mission today really is to synthesize how he managed to take this very specific high-energy American stand-up style, and we'll definitely dig into that stuff.
Yeah.
And how he successfully translated that sort of professional DNA onto all these different international stages. It's a deep dive into this comic, born January 14th, 1967, who kind of decided, the U.S. club scene, not big enough.
Right. He needed the whole world.
The whole planet is his stage, yeah.
And that geographical reach, that's what really sets him apart, I think. When you look at where he's performed, it's way beyond the usual, North American tour. Maybe a few dates in London or something.
Totally.
We're talking regular gigs in Hong Kong, Tokyo, London, Berlin, Sydney, sure. But also places comedians don't always hit, like Basel, Geneva, Shanghai, Jakarta, Copenhagen.
Wow.
It's not just like occasional trips. His career seems built around being out there globally and being able to adapt professionally wherever he lands.
And that adaptability, it must take a certain kind of drive. And you see that drive physically in his unique stage presence.
Definitely. The pacing.
Yeah, the pacing. But before we get to that, let's maybe rewind a bit. Where did this relentless comedy thing, this motion, even start? What were the early influences?
Okay, so the spark seems to be family-related initially. His uncle Bob performed locally in D.C. But the real, lightning bolt moment, according to Rhodes and Dutch, happened when he was just 12. His dad took him to a comedy club in D.C. to see his uncle.
And the story here is just fantastic. The sources say he was just this kid sitting there wearing a Washington Redskins jacket.
Right, just a kid.
And another comedian on stage, probably looking for an easy laugh, spots him, pulls him up on stage.
Yeah, what happened?
And starts interviewing him like he's the actual football coach.
Oh, wow. Talk about being thrown in the deep end.
Exactly. And Rhodes says that moment, that sort of unexpected, forced interaction on stage, that's when he just completely fell in love with stand-up.
Instantly hooked. But it wasn't just the stage thrill, apparently. His home life played a big part, too, specifically his father, David B. Rhodes III.
His father's background is, well, it's quite something. Decorated Vietnam War vet, right? A Huey helicopter pilot.
Yeah, earned a Purple Heart, the Distinguished Flying Cross.
Yeah.
Clearly someone who'd seen incredibly intense situations.
Absolutely heroic stuff.
And Tom Rhodes says this experience really shaped his dad's sense of humor. He apparently had this amazing ability to spin horrific war stories into something funny.
That's incredible, to take something so dark and find humor.
Right, that ability to process extreme stress or fear and turn it into comedy. You have to think that gave young Tom a kind of comedic resilience, maybe even that positive outlook he's known for, like a way to balance out the heavy stuff in life.
That makes a lot of sense, actually. It gives context. But the real launch, career-wise, came from this almost unbelievable meeting with Jay Leno, purely because Rhodes was just so determined.
Oh, it's pure hustle. Young kid hustle. He was underage, right? Couldn't legally get into the cheek-to-cheek jazz club in Winter Park, Florida, where Leno was playing.
So what did he do?
The source says he just waited outside, strategically, by the backstage door. When the opening act finally came out, he literally jammed his foot in the door.
No way.
Yep, and watched Leno's entire set through that tiny crack.
That is some serious dedication. Or maybe just nerve.
A bit of both, probably. But Leno was impressed, clearly. He brought him backstage after the show.
And gave him that crucial advice.
Yeah, the advice that basically shaped the next chunk of his life. If you're serious about comedy, you got to be where the action is. You need to be in New York or L.A., hitting stages constantly.
And Rhodes, he just went.
Took it completely to heart, moved straight to New York. But the sources make it clear it wasn't instant success, not even close.
Right, he called it
the worst year of his life. Living pretty much broke in Washington Heights, performing these grueling, low-paid one-nighters, mostly out in New Jersey or Long Island. Just grinding.
It sounds absolutely brutal, but he stuck with it.
He did. It took time, but he finally landed a proper headlining gig. That was at the Punchline down near Atlanta.
Okay, so that period, that constant grind, even when he had no money, It feels like it must connect to his physical style on stage.
Yeah.
That kinetic energy.
It really seems to. It's his absolute trademark, the constant pacing, the way he holds the mic kind of loose and wobbly.
He called it a temple dance to honor the spirits of the universe, which is quite a description.
It is, but the actual origins seem much more, well, practical, tactical even.
Yeah, the sources break it down into three things, which I find fascinating.
Yeah.
It's not just nervous energy, it's planned. First, his boxing experience when he was 13.
Exactly. Boxing teaches you constant movement, right? Staying light on your feet, never being a static target. That translates perfectly to stand-up. You need to react, shift, engage.
And the second influence is kind of surprising. John McEnroe, the tennis player.
Yeah. Specifically, McEnroe's advice to play the net.
How does that apply to comedy?
Well, think about it. Playing the net in tennis means being aggressive, close to the action, always ready, taking risks. Rhodes seems to apply that to the stage. Stay engaged, stay close to the audience, don't retreat, own the space aggressively.
Okay, I see that. And the third piece, let's say the most memorable piece of advice.
Yeah. The advice from some early comic to shit in all four corners of the stage.
Crude but effective.
Totally. It's the ultimate instruction for stage presence, right? Use the whole space. Move left, right, forward, back. Make the audience track you. Turn the stage into your arena, not just a spot you stand on.
Yeah.
It makes so much sense now. And this idea, this philosophy of constant motion covering the whole area, you really see it play out in his career choices later. He even admits some people find the pacing annoying, but it's just part of him now.
It's baked in. It's his performance language. And that high energy, that kinetic thing, that's exactly what made him pop when cable TV was starting up and Comedy Central was trying to figure itself out.
Which brings us perfectly into the early 90s. Comedy Central's launching, they need fresh talent, and Rhodes gets this huge opportunity.
Massive break. He'd been on their show 2 drink minimum, and off the back of that, they signed him. He was the first stand-up comic they signed to a 1-year development deal.
Wow, the first one.
Yeah. He wasn't just a guest performer. He was one of the faces they were using to build the whole network's identity early on.
And part of that was those iconic comedic rant commercials. Remember those? Shot in a jail cell, edited like a music video.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. Very early 90s cable vibe. Very much in that Dennis Leary MTV rant style, you know. Quick cuts, cynical, fast-paced observations delivered from this kind of rebellious confinement.
And that style clearly worked. It put him right in the mix, didn't it? Caused a bit of jealousy, apparently.
Well, yeah. Mark Maron admitted later on his podcast, WTF, that he was super jealous of those commercials Rhodes was doing.
Really? Maron?
Yeah. Said he basically had to complain to the network to get his own similar kind of image spot.
That tells you how big a deal Rhodes was right then. He was setting the tone.
He really was. And Rhodes himself looked back on that time really fondly, called it like being a junior filmmaker, said he could basically do whatever I wanted because the network was so new. This was before, you know, South Park or The Daily Show became these huge institutions with more rules.
That creative freedom, it led him to do some really interesting kind of pioneering stuff, like mixing travel and comedy with that show, Viva Vietnam, a white trash adventure tour.
Yeah, that was a true docucomedy. He hosted and wrote it. And the concept was smart, choosing Vietnam just as it was opening up to tourism.
Plus the personal connection, right? His father's history there.
Exactly. It let him bring his, high energy, sometimes irreverent style to a place with incredibly serious history for his family and for America. He wanted to, quote, bring humor to something that was otherwise bleak in American history.
Which goes right back to what you said about his father's way of storytelling.
It really does. And the timing was pointed too, aired in 1995, right on the 20th anniversary of the end of the war.
It was bold.
Yeah.
And there was that one specific stunt they mentioned, the slip-and slide.
Yeah, setting up a slip-and slide on China Beach. That single image, that kind of gleeful physical silliness right on this historically loaded spot that perfectly captures what he was doing with that show.
But then came the really big shift. Moving from that kind of self-directed cable freedom into the big leagues, the network sitcom world. Mr. Rhodes on NBC, 1996-97 season.
Huge leap, huge potential exposure. It ran for 19 episodes. But the reaction, it was really split, which kind of tells you how hard it is to translate a unique stand-up voice into that mainstream sitcom format.
Right. People magazine loved it, gave it an A, called him a gifted stand-up comic, and the show a welcome back. Cotter for the gentry, high praise.
Yeah, they saw the potential. But then the Orlando Sentinel, Not so much. They really went after his acting, basically saying that energy, which worked so well live, felt, I don't know, maybe awkward or forced in a scripted show.
And Rhodes himself felt the pressure, right? The sources say the constant network notes, the jokes about his long hair not being able to focus on stand-up, it really started to wear on him.
It's the classic trap for a comic, isn't it? The lure of network money and fame versus actually doing the thing you love, the stand-up. They were trying to sand off his edges.
So what happened when it ended?
What's really interesting is how he handled it. The show gets canceled. He takes the money he made, which must have been pretty decent moves back to New York, and just throws himself back into stand-up.
And he called the money his NBC Artists Grant.
Exactly. Which tells you everything about his priorities, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really does.
He saw the sitcom not as the end goal, but as a transaction. A way to buy himself time and freedom to do what he actually wanted to do. He used the money to get back his creative independence. That's thinking like an entrepreneur, not just a performer.
And that freedom, that financial cushion, let him get back to his roots, led to 2 more Comedy Central Present specials, 2001 and 2009.
Yeah, filmed back at the Hudson Theater. And even in the staging of those, you see his personality.
Not so.
Well, for the first one, the backdrop was Leonardo da Vinci's study overlooking Florence. Kind of intellectual, arty hints of that Smart Camp idea way before the podcast.
Okay. And the second one?
For the second, the background was this cool image of all the world's great monuments kind of crammed together, and he made sure the Colossus of Rhodes was in there.
Of course he did.
And then he named his third comedy album Colossus of Me. It's all part of building his own sort of mythology through these visual jokes.
That self-awareness, playing with his own image, it sets up the next big move perfectly. The one that really took his career global, the move to Europe, specifically the Netherlands.
Right. This was a huge pivot. Initially, it was personal. He moved because of a relationship with a Dutch actress, Jack Pfeiffer. That relationship didn't last ultimately, but the career doors that opened for him in Amsterdam, they completely changed everything.
He landed a pretty major gig almost right away, didn't he?
Yeah.
Hosting the Kevin Masters Show starring Tom Rhodes.
Yeah, on Dutch Joren television. Hosted it for 2 years, 2002 to 2004. And the whole reason they wanted an American host was interesting.
Why was that?
The producers specifically wanted an outsider's view, someone who could offer a fresh, maybe slightly irreverent perspective on Dutch culture, Dutch politics, everything.
And the name Kevin Masters, that wasn't his idea.
No. Apparently, Kevin Masters was just this generic placeholder name they came up with before they even found a host. But by the time they picked Rhodes, the name had kind of stuck, so they just kept it. The Kevin Masters Show, starring Tom Rhodes. Bit of a mouthful.
That's pretty funny. So he became like their version of a late-night talk show host.
Pretty much. Kind of the Dutch Letterman or Conan, interviewing local celebs, politicians, but also big American stars passing through Europe.
But the key difference, the thing that must have been mind-blowing after dealing with NBC, was the lack of censorship, right?
Oh, completely. The sources emphasize this huge difference in broadcast standards. On Dutch TV back then, virtually no censorship compared to the U.S. networks.
It must have felt incredibly liberating after worrying about jokes about his hair.
Totally. And the examples they give are just wild. Really show the contrast.
Okay, give us the examples.
Right. First one. He's interviewing the band Tenacious D. They go to an Amsterdam coffee shop, and they just openly smoke marijuana together on camera, live on air, just chatting about music.
Wow. Okay. Try doing that on American network TV.
Exactly. Impossible. Second example. Steve-O from Jackass is a guest.
Oh, boy. I can guess where this is going.
Yep. Steve-O proceeds to staple his own scrotum to his leg. On the show. Full, uncensored nudity. Broadcast.
Oh, my God. That's something else. You just couldn't see that here.
Never. So imagine going from network sitcom constraints to that level of freedom. It must have completely validated his decision to move away from the U.S. system. It showed him environments existed that valued, authenticity and pushing boundaries, even if it got messy.
And his American peers noticed.
Yeah.
The Dave Attell thing.
Yeah. When Dave Attell brought his show, Insomniac, to Amsterdam, Rhodes was featured. And Attell had him represent the deadly sin of envy.
Because Attell was jealous.
Basically, yeah. Attell's whole thing was grinding it out, city after city, late nights in the U.S., and here's Rhodes with this, quote, cushy job in such a liberal town. The Dutch gig became the symbol of the ideal setup. Steady work plus total creative freedom.
So when the Kevin Masters Show ended after its run, he didn't just pack up and leave Europe.
Nope. He leaned into it. Stayed with the same network Joren, but shifted gears to host Joren Travel.
Which makes perfect sense. It brings it full circle back to the Viva Vietnam idea, but now as a dedicated travel host.
Exactly. It formalized that part of his identity, and the places they sent him for just that one season, it shows the scale of it.
Where did he go?
The itinerary was intense, filming segments all over South America and Europe, places like Peru, the Champagne region in France, St. Petersburg in Russia, Wales, Aruba, even a special Beatles tour segment in Liverpool. He was officially the comedian as world traveler.
That constant motion again, from pacing the stage to pacing the globe, which leads us naturally into the next phase, the 2010s and the rise of digital media. The podcast seems like the perfect fit for him.
Absolutely perfect. He launched Tom Rhodes Smart Camp in 2011 on the All Things Comedy Network, and the name itself, Smart Camp, tells you it wasn't just going to be another comic interviewing comic show.
Right. He called it a festival of ideas, knowledge, stories, books, and adventures. Much broader.
Yeah, very intellectual framing. Segments like Smart Besties, Smart Ramble, Smart Books and Movies. He co-hosted it initially with Ashna Rodjan.
Who he later married.
Right. And the podcast really became this hub for everything. It let him keep traveling but stay connected, talk to old friends from his early stand-up days, people like Doug Stanhope, Brian Regan.
Which is interesting, right? Because Rhodes has this super positive, upbeat vibe.
Relentlessly positive. Yeah.
But he connects deeply with comics like Stanhope, who are known for being, well, pretty cynical or dark.
It's a fascinating dynamic, but I think it speaks to how genuine his positivity is. Stanhope himself, Mr. Cynicism, just flat out said Rhodes is a very positive person, like no irony.
And Jean Garofalo had a similar take.
Yeah, she said something like his whole upbeat thing would normally annoy her, but with Rhodes, she enjoys it because it feels completely authentic. It's not an act.
It's like his enthusiasm is so real, it kind of disarms the usual defenses people might have. Allows for different kinds of conversation.
Exactly. And that mix, the humor, the travel stories, the genuine curiosity about ideas and people, it got the podcast noticed. Matador Network called it one of the top podcasts of 2011.
What do they like about it?
They pointed out the humor, obviously, but also the really diverse guests, not just comics, but musicians, his family members, promoters, just an eclectic mix. The only real critique was that the release schedule was sometimes sporadic.
Which makes sense if you're constantly traveling the world.
Totally understandable.
And he used the podcast for really personal stuff too, didn't he? Like the episode with his sister.
Yeah, that's a key point. He recorded this incredibly moving episode with his younger sister, Laura, not long before she passed away. It shows how much he integrates his personal life right into his public, professional work. No real separation.
And alongside the podcast, he cemented that role, becoming a travel writer for the Huffington Post in 2011.
Right, making it official, which fed directly into his long-term goal.
The comedy travel TV show, the ultimate evolution of the Viva Vietnam idea.
Exactly. Documenting his travels, but also specifically highlighting comedy scenes in different parts of the world. He'd actually already shot pilot episodes for that concept back in 2010 in places as different as Montana and Kuala Lumpur.
Still chasing that synthesis of comedy and global exploration. And speaking of global exploration, we have to talk about the Elvis doll.
Yes, the Elvis mascot. It's such a perfectly weird Rhodesian ritual.
He just carries this toy Elvis doll everywhere.
Everywhere, and takes pictures of it. The source mentioned over 80 pictures of this Elvis doll in locations all around the world.
Like where?
Oh, all the big ones. Lincoln Memorial, Mount Rushmore, the Great Wall of China, Machu Picchu, Dubai, the Valley of the Temples in Sicily.
Why Elvis, do you think? What's the joke there?
Well, Elvis is maybe the ultimate symbol of exported American pop culture, right? So placing this little kind of kitschy icon of American fame in these huge monumental global settings, it's like a running commentary. It highlights how pervasive American culture is, but maybe also gently mocks the seriousness of tourism itself. It's a very meta travel gag.
That fits him perfectly. Okay, as we start to pull all these threads together, we need to touch on the really deep personal events that shaped him, especially the losses, starting with his father's death.
Yeah, David Dusty Rhodes III passed away in November 2009. He was 70. And it wasn't sudden. It was the result of injuries from a crash with a drunk driver 3 months earlier.
That's awful. Bedridden with serious injury.
And multiple fractures, spinal injuries. It's a terrible way for anyone to go, let alone someone with his background. There's such a tragic irony there. This decorated war hero ultimately brought down by something so senseless, so random.
And because of his military service, he received a full military funeral, buried at Arlington National Cemetery.
Right. That contrast between the heroic life and the, frankly, mundane tragedy of his death, It adds another layer to that idea of finding humor in dark places, doesn't it? How do you process that kind of unfairness?
It's profound. And then just a couple of years later, another huge loss, his younger sister, Laura Beth Rhodes Goldstein.
Died from stage 4 breast cancer in April 2011. And this was the sister he seemed incredibly close to. The one who said on his podcast he was like the sister she never had because he gave such good life advice.
That closeness led to that really intense, very public moment, the marriage at her bedside.
Yeah. Because Laura had always wanted to see him get married. He and Ashna Rodjan, his podcast co-host, actually got married right there at Laura's bedside.
He brought the wedding to her.
Literally. And the source says, despite being so ill, Laura managed to clap and say, "Congratulations." She passed away the very next day.
Wow. That's just an incredibly powerful story.
Mm.
Using his public platform, his marriage, to fulfill a dying wish.
It shows that complete merging of his personal and professional life, total vulnerability.
And that marriage to Ashna lasted until 2018. They announced the divorce on the podcast too, right?
With the same openness. An episode titled Our Last Day Together, where they talked about ending the marriage but remaining close friends, still loving each other. The podcast, Smart Camp, really became this living document of his whole life. The highs, the lows, the transitions.
It's the ultimate commitment to that authenticity you mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
Using his voice to navigate everything good and bad.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's synthesize. We've tracked Tom Rhodes from that hyperactive kid on stage, pacing like a boxer, through Comedy Central, the sitcom experiment, finding freedom in Dutch TV, and finally becoming this global comedian, writer, podcaster. What's the main takeaway? What's the legacy here?
I think the legacy is really about that motion becoming the entire philosophy. That physical energy he needed on stage, the strategy to shoot in all four corners, it wasn't just about stand-up. It became the way he ran his whole career. Constant, aggressive movement, using the sitcom money to fund the next move, adapting his act for different countries, different languages, different media, and finally, landing on this perfect synthesis as a perpetual traveler, documenting it all.
He essentially turned his stage persona into his entire life's operating system. The travel writing, the podcast, they let him be his own boss, constantly moving, constantly commenting, always on his own terms.
Precisely. But there's one more layer, I think, that's crucial for the final picture. His philosophical leanings. We know he's the positive guy, but we shouldn't ignore his connections to some pretty serious social commentary.
You mean his link to Sacred Cow Productions? Bill Hicks's company?
That and his appearance in that documentary, American Drug War, The Last White Hope, where he specifically discussed drug laws in Amsterdam.
Okay, so Hicks, known for biting social critique and then discussing drug policy and freedom in the context of Amsterdam.
Right, so you have this influence from Hicks, who represented absolute freedom and truth-telling in comedy. And then you have his lived experience in the Netherlands, a place where, as we saw, expression is radically uncensored compared to the U.S. He was immersed in that liberal environment.
So he carries both that Hicks influence and that Dutch experience with him on his travels.
Definitely. It's part of his toolkit, even if his delivery is generally upbeat.
Which leads us to our final provocative thought for you, the listener. Consider this. Tom Rhodes is this relentlessly positive, globe-trotting comedian. But how might that deep connection to a fierce social critic like Bill Hicks, combined with years soaking in the radically free media environment of the Netherlands, continue to shape the commentary that might be simmering just beneath that sunny surface?
Yeah, as he keeps moving, keeps observing, keeps talking. It's that optimism, just his unique way of delivering potentially uncomfortable truths he picks up around the world. That tension between the bright persona and the potential for sharp insight drawn from Hicks and his global experience that feels like the ongoing, fascinating core of Tom Rhodes' journey.